Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Island Stat Sports Show. I'm your host, Earl Basden, and joining me first this evening is the president of the Western Stars Sports Club, Mr. DeVar Boyles. Good evening, Mr. Boyles. I hope
Good evening,
all
Mr.
is
Basin, and
well.
your yes, thank you. Happy Cup match to right around the corner to your listening audience,
Yes.
and I'm thankfully you've asked me to come on there to share our
Yeah,
story with your audiences.
definitely. I know it was some time ago that we had the announcement that there was a partnership between the Western Star Sports Club, Gorhams, and government to redo the field. And we see a lot has been done, a lot has been accomplished, but still some ways to go. But I wanted to get an update regarding the field itself because we see still some of the work still needs to be done, but we see a lot of progress being made. So let's start off right away. What has been done thus far to get us to this point at the Western Star Sports Club?
A whole lot. A lot's been done. So, as you mentioned, this is a three-pronged partnership between a private company, Gorhams, and Bermuda government, and a local sporting club, which is us. We're thankful for those two, the big two in the room, government and Gorhams, collaborating to afford us the opportunity of repositioning the playing surface at St. John's. I like your picks. So what's been done to date, the field had to be brought up to a level to avoid flooding. Gorm's remit is to give us a green top that doesn't flood. So the field has been raised considerably, as high as 3.5 to 4.5 feet at different elevations of the field. Um, so what went into that was a drainage mat that was put down first, and a drainage mat consists of rubble and glass aggregate that's mixed. The reason that they use the glass aggregate, to my knowledge, is that glass doesn't fuse together like normal aggregate rock, so it allows for better drainage when the water hits it to run through. And the other great thing is that Bermuda has a big recycling effort, and government saw this as one of the big initiatives to get it some traction onto Bermuda recycling a little bit more. So Western Stars has benefited from Bermuda's efforts. So this is really a great community partnership by the country. I mean that everybody's contributed to the raising of the field at Western Stars.
Mm. Um, Obviously, COVID came about during this as we initially got this started. How far has COVID pushed this project behind of sorts for the club?
I think it's relative. So, for example, um, from our land, not necessarily from Gorms, because they're not here. I can't speak for them, and I can't speak for government. From the club lens, COVID has actually slowed the project down, which has allowed us to do some of the work that we wanted to do. So, for example, um, the project as we know it, Gorm's mandate was to, as I mentioned, to give us a green top and to avoid flooding.
Mm,
The club was desirous of, before they put down the drainage mat, which is what I just spoke about, the mixture of the rubble and the glass aggregate. When that was going down, we wanted to secure what we called below ground assets. So
mhm,
when we had the field, we had lights, we had pools and that sort of stuff. When the field was raised, we lost those assets. And because we are really a sports club, or one, that's what we want to be, then having floodlights for training, not necessarily for matches, is important to our existence. So we took that opportunity based on COVID and other reasons for slowing down the projects to secure below ground assets. So what we've done is we've put a irrigation system in that will be above ground. So the piping obviously is below ground, but the actual sprinkler heads will be above ground. It's like this big wheel, and we got that. It's a low budget idea, but we got it from Soltis. Soltis Grammars actually has it in use now. So
mhm.
thank you for Soltis, the maintenance staff at Soltis, to who gave us some information on that, and we adopted that system. The other thing that we put in place was the utility lines for the pools. The club secured special order pools with the help of Balco. Balco typically brings in all the pools that we have on island, but the height is like 40 feet to 35 feet, 40 feet being the highest.
Hmm.
They put us on to a vendor, the person who does their pools, and we got special order pools that were 70-foot wooden pools. And the higher the pools, the better as it relates to lighting.
Hmm.
Unlike other projects where they can put the cast iron or aluminum pools that you see at National Stadium, BA, Somerset, PHC,
Hmm.
because we're so close to the canal level, the cost of putting in the footings and pylons for the pools was just was a great amount, and we don't have the funds to do that. So the next
Right.
best option was to secure these 70-foot wooden pools. And
Okay.
when we took the other pools out of the ground, interestingly, is that they were in pristine condition. So before the field was raised, we had wooden pools for training lights. And
Hmm.
when we took the pools out, you would have been amazed how they like were petrified in the water, where they just wasn't rotten at the bottom. So
Oh,
that
wow.
gave us a big indication that we could continue with this method at a larger scale, meaning the height of the pool. So we'll see. We'll see.
Mhm. Well, we've seen the pools and the shots of the video, and they are erected and so forth. So let's talk a little bit about how um, who's actually overseeing this project, because as you as the president, you often talk about the group, the Roots Foundation group, who are kind of the managers of this project and are foreseeing this through for on the club's behalf.
Okay, thank you for that. So when I became president, I transitioned from Walday Place, who was the president before I arrived. Walday Place was actually the president who secured or signed the agreement with Gorhams and government.
Hmm.
And then at the end of his tenure, I came on as president, and I just thought that the project was bigger than the sports club president. So I thought it was wise to separate the two. My brief as the club president when I was elected was to run a cricket team and football team. And while this might be sexy, I think it requires a different skill set. So
Hmm.
we decided to do Roots, and Roots is foundation people of the club. So that group of people is older or long in the tooth, as some people will say, the wrong side of 50, as others will accurately say. But the president of the Roots Foundation is Charles Brown.
Hmm.
The vice president is Calvin Blankendow,
Hmm.
and the other committee members are Scott Morton, Stephen Lewis, Lloyd Christopher, Mike Rouse, Neville Deal, Gershon Gibbons, Shawnette Pirot. And so those are the main members of the Roots. So Shawnette is an ex officio, as well as I representing
Hmm.
the club. So we attend the meetings, but it's really the term that I like to use is lights on, hands off. Yeah, we see what's going on, but they have a remit of seeing the project through to fruition. So for
Hmm.
that, their mandate is to transition us away from the club to Berkeley, West Pembroke, and Northlands, and get us back to the club. And in the meantime, they're managing, the field development. So for
Hmm.
them, it's three phases. The first phase was the grass top and below ground assets, or green top, I should say. The next phase is securing the players' pavilion. So there was an area close to Gorms that we had the former like utility room to turn the lights
Yes.
on and off.
Yes.
It's like a little end cave. So that
Yes.
particular area, we have plans to build changing rooms, four changing rooms, in fact. So we will be better outfitted to accommodate sports, not just the traditional ones that we know of now, cricket and football. So certainly we have a the Dendy Angels,
Mm-hmm.
who are playing softball now in the finals. You're making me
Yeah.
miss it. This is 3 out of 5 series. So up
Yeah.
2-1
Okay.
against the Rainbows. That match started at 7:30, so I might be able to catch the conclusion. But
Sure.
the women's section of the club is certainly taking off. Obviously, we see. We have Dandy Stars, the football team. Now I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned the Angels, which is the softball team, and we have an appetite to do netball, but it's not
Yeah.
something that the club pushes. It's whatever the
Mm.
women at the club choose to do. So it's not we need to have this. It's
Right.
whatever their interests are, and most
Mhm.
of it, as you know, is sports. So
Yeah.
we see the sports being played in some form or fashion at St. John's. Hence, we thought that it would be wise for us to have more than multiple change rooms,
Mm.
and there's change room be outfitted with what the standard change room should have.
Right. Okay. Now, what time frame are you talking about now, or what time frame are the Roots and the developers talking about looking at an opening?
Okay, that's a great question, and is no nailed on date. Ideally, if we had to choose it, speaking on behalf of the Roots, they've mentioned September 2023,
Hmm.
which would be the start of the football season. But all of this is contingent on the grass being grown. So
Hmm.
you took pictures of the field being now in its state. So
Hmm.
this month there's been a pause, like a break. So come the end after cup match, it will be accelerated. So right now what you see is just weeds, and there's a lot of topsoil that hasn't been put on the field, but grass will be germinated. It's anywhere
Hmm.
from 7 to 10 days, small little sections based on not having a below ground irrigation system. If we
Hmm.
would have had a below ground irrigation system, then that would accelerate the grass growing opportunities. I mentioned to you that we have a above ground irrigation system, but
Hmm.
that's not going to come online because that was the club's theme, not what Gorms put into the project or government.
Right.
And so it comes down to affordability. So I mentioned to you earlier that the below ground assets were secured, meaning the piping and stuff is there. The far
Hmm.
side of the project, we have holding tanks, which will feed this irrigation system.
Okay.
So, and we just have to buy the asset, the actual irrigator itself. And so you just move it to the middle of the field, and it contracts on itself. And then let's say that water and line cycle, which does 30 feet, left or right of you, talking about a 60 feet span. So it's
Hmm.
labor intensive, but it can irrigate the whole field in like 3 hours. So it's
Okay.
it's possible. Just a lot
Right.
more labor intensive than turn on the sprinkler, set the time, and walk away, and it's turned off for you. So we're
Sure.
gonna put some more skin in the game.
Sure, sure, sure. So let's talk a little bit about what else is going on at the field, because you talked about putting changing rooms over the far side, which I think players and so forth, because the fans are more so on the side by the club. So it's safety and all that, players not
Yeah,
going through, all that other stuff. That's
yeah,
that's a brilliant
yeah.
idea.
I'm glad that you mentioned that. We're still okay. We were so excited. I mentioned to you 3 phases. We were so excited to oh, the first phase is coming over. No one's really thought about in great detail, meaning a real plan, a
Mhm.
plan that I can pull up on the screen and say this is what it is.
Mhm.
We've done some of it, but it's not complete. So what we're doing now is talking about functionality of the field, like how are we going to use it. So for example, there is definitely going to be 3 entrances now. So the entrance as you know it is like a hairpin turn on the corner of Bakery
Yes.
Lane and St. John's Road. That will
Yes.
still be an entrance, but it'll be an entrance just for players and officials who are driving to that particular spot.
Mhm.
On St. John's Road, there was always a pedestrian access for spectators. That will
Yes.
continue. Down on the corner of our boundary where we shared with Gorms, there will be a gate there. And again, that will be for like a player's entrance if they choose to walk on the sidewalk to enter that particular park. Because remember, they're going to drive into the field. And let's say
Mhm.
they don't want to walk across the field for whatever reason. They have an
Right.
opportunity or an option to walk on the sidewalk and go in the gate on St. John's Road. And that takes
Okay.
you to the players' pavilion. On
Mm.
that side of the field, There will be a smaller area for we're probably targeting our home fans to be on that side of the field because it'll be a little
Yes.
bit more intimate, closer to the field,
Hmm.
per se. And then on the Bakery Lane side, on the western side, that's where we're gonna have our third entrance, and that will be our major spectators entrance. So we have
Okay.
the turnstiles where you come in, and then we want to create a different experience, a sporting experience in Bermuda. So we see a family zone, a spectator zone. So when you walk through, there's going to be some amenities. You buy something, some apparel,
Hmm.
food, that sort of stuff, and you just go through your particular zone and get to your vantage point where you want to view the field. In front of that area, again, there will be space for teams to warm up. And like I said, we talked about a kids zone because we're a football field. We'll have girls and stuff like that will be there for kids who come to the game. Sometimes they're in the way, but we want to kind of create a space for them where this is the way. They're not
Right.
in the way.
Right.
Behind the goal, in the what we call the southern side, there used to be outfitted with cricket nets and that sort of stuff. That's where the holding tanks for the irrigation system will be.
Hmm.
And the second or the last phase of the development for us is the solar garden. Now, the solar garden is a way of us generating revenue, and that revenue will be targeted to secure the maintenance of the field. We're
Sure.
conservative estimates that we know, based on some figures from other clubs who get their field done regularly, that maintenance of a field, and this is those clubs are one sport clubs. We're a two sport club, so one sport club is like 30K, the annual maintenance. So we have to come up with a revenue stream that covers the annual maintenance of maintain it. So when people come to that particular venue, it is like how it should be.
Mm.
So while we appreciate volunteerism, we want that to be a part-time job for a company and or persons to deliver that side of the amenities for people coming to St. John's.
Sure. Well, we're gonna take a quick commercial break. But when we come back, I want to talk about how the teams have adjusted. The football team at BAA and the cricket team at Seabreeze Oval. We'll be right back.
It's putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Welcome back. Well, Devon, how are those relationships with the facilities that you've been utilizing since you've kind of had to, you've closed down the field, you pick spots to train, but how are those relationships with the facilities for game days?
I think it's been quite good. Luckily for us, our brothers in arms, other affiliates have welcomed us, give us the opportunity to use the facility, and it is a business arrangement, but they still allow us to use it. So from the football standpoint, I think BA has Robin Hood, Western Stars, and Boulevard along with themselves. So four clubs using a
Yes.
facility, and it works really, really, really well, in my opinion. So they allow us to take the gate, and that's important because the field rental cost and the security cost it's a pretty penny.
Mhm.
So that certainly helps to defray some of the costs. So we're grateful and happy for that. And we've just renewed because, like I said, our intended date is hopefully next season, September 23. We no longer have to use BA as a match venue, but everything has to align itself, and we know sometimes that doesn't always necessarily happen the way that we wish it to be. And then on the cricket front, we have a MOU, a memorandum of understanding with Bayless Bay Cricket Club, and it speaks to some of the things that Western Stars, believe it or not, is an urban club, and people don't appreciate some of the assets that we have. And even us, I guess, we didn't appreciate it until we go to other facilities and we see what we have and what they don't have. So, what we did was Bayless Bay needed some like they needed equipment, and we had
Right.
that equipment for cricket.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we sort of was great synergy. So the cutter for the wicket, the covers for the wicket. We donated some clay to them, which is important
Right.
for cricket. And some of the clay that was donated to Bayless Bay then opened up, their clay reservoir and gave some to St. George's, and that's what we wanted. That was the
Mhm.
spirit in which we open up the memorandum, because
Right.
while we have assets today, 5 years from now the tables are turned and then another club has it. So we're trying to get other clubs to share the resources, or certainly streamline the cost, because if it's an asset, it's only an asset if it's being used, or it precipitates revenue. And in this
Mm.
case, the machines just would have sat there and being unused, so it would have been no good to us, and another affiliate will benefit from it.
Right.
Um,
Well,
s-
I must touch on the fact that the Denby Town Hornets were crowned the league champions, and the Western Stars have now been promoted. So it looks as if things are on the up and up at the club. It's always had a lot of success in both sports. Um, how do you keep that as a community club? How do you keep that going? That success, or the drive to be better than the group before.
well, it's easy, but it's hard work. So the
Hmm.
the easy part, if long as we stick to the mandate of sports
Hmm.
and remember what's the core value of Western Stars, what we're really trying to do, and sometimes it's not always on the field as you see it. We're
Yes.
probably one of the clubs who has the poorest footprint on social media, but we do so much things that
Right.
people are unaware of, and I think people kind of identify with that. So we don't have like a big conversation, like even the field. Like you're talking to me about the field, and we haven't really done any big publicity about the field, but there's been lots of milestones that have been missed and reached as it relates to the field. And I'm sure if we would have told the story better, maybe some of the outcomes might have been better. But
Hmm.
because we are who we are and the skill set is limited, and not everybody identifies with, I guess, us and what we're trying to do, that it's small steps.
Hmm.
So what brings success is understanding your story and being true to your story. So we've as you might know, before we left the grant, we had moved away from bar receipts and that sort of revenue. And I
Yes.
think that that's been helped because of COVID. I think all clubs, but certainly our model as is sports and wellness. So we see the two
Mhm.
going together. So
Right.
although we might have a pop-up bar, we have when we return to the field for a concession day, serving alcohol through the week will not be part of our remit.
Mhm.
So that's just for match days and for that window. Once the match is over and that window is closed, then everything that relates to alcohol will be closed as well. So I'm saying that to say there are more people that can't identify with that model than we thought.
Right.
So, and when I talk to the elders of the club, that wasn't the intention. The intention when they first put the bar there, it wasn't for, how it's like,
Every
developed
day.
to its own entity.
Mhm.
So this allowed us to hit the pause button, and to reposition ourselves. And I think we've done that. So the hard part is all the stuff in between. It's easy to
Right.
say this is what we wanted to do, so slowly but surely is happening. But the football coaches who have worked with us when we went away from the field, so the biggest coaches in the club's history is these coaches that are coaching away from the field. So,
Mhm.
for example, the first coach was Kwame Steed, and then last year Aaron Dankins did something phenomenal. He's the
Right.
most successful football coach in the club's history off a single season. Only
Mm.
losing 2 games and came very close to, the triple that slipped us 3 times,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
ironic. But cricket, last year it was Curtis Jackson who
Mhm.
started us for us and got us, promoted in the Premier Division for the T20. And
Mhm.
then this year, underneath the leadership of Jakarta Agnes, he's done it as well, where he's done it in the 50 overs. So
Right.
now the club is repositioned in cricket as well. And I think some of the model in football, I understand that, and so that model has been applied to cricket, not in
Right.
any great length, but it certainly started that way. So
Mm.
we'll see if it really takes.
Right. So my final question is about you. You touched on the bar, the current structure of the club. What is to be done with that?
Oh, that's a great question. So when we look, you have to look at yourself first,
Mhm.
then you look around the island, other examples, then you have to look off island. And I think if you take that view, then I think different solutions, different ideas, and certainly different problems arise from it. So what we've done, we looked at PHC, who doesn't, lost their club. We looked at Somerset Bridge, who lost their club. We looked at Devonshire Colts. So we looked at those three examples locally. And then we looked at some models overseas, some in Sheffield, some in Holland, where they didn't have, well, they when they lost their club, they just had a green top, a field,
Mhm.
and they
Mhm.
found that they were just as successful. So we took inspiration from the clubs who didn't have clubs per se, operating in that lands, and how we want to reposition St. John's. So the building is an eyesore. I'll be the first to say it.
Mhm.
It's an eyesore. But what we're conscious of is that when you knock down something, you should have something ready to replace it.
Right.
And I
Right.
think we don't have anything to replace that. So I
Mhm.
think it will behoove us not to be so quick to knocking down the umbrella,
Mhm.
because at least the umbrella keeps you dry.
Right.
So we have a place to meet. This year we'll probably have a bigger footprint, so we're going to try to do some aesthetics on the building itself, but very low budget, because the foundation of the club, based on everything else, like I mentioned, it's not stable. It's sinking in certain areas. So to
Mhm.
spend good money on a bad investment, it just wasn't wise.
Right.
So that's what we decided to move the money from and sinking it to building or freshen up the club. With the 150K that we got from Gorms, we decided to secure the below ground assets and try to have the best green top that we can,
Sure.
with those sort of amenities. So what we want to do now is, like I said, freshen it up, clean it, and make that space a better meeting space for teams.
Mhm.
Will we really operate out of there? to no great degree, because when the field comes online, it's desirous on our part to have the players pavilion sorted out, and the other stuff that I mentioned is all outside stuff like kids zone, family zone, all of that's going to be on the grass as well.
Right.
So we don't see a great need for the building as it was used previously. And
Mhm.
obviously, we want to do some other things in the building to make it more football or cricket specific. So, for example, there are 2 change rooms inside. So, what
Yeah.
we talked about doing was just knocking out the wall, if it's not a weight bearing wall, and make one big changing room. And it had 2 showers, turn one shower into a recuperation room where we have like, a big ice bath, that sort of
Right.
stuff, to make
Mhm.
it sports friendly
Right.
for all teams, not just our
Mhm.
team. So other teams who come to facility after the game, that will be, instead of having a drink at the bar, maybe you have a sports
Ice
drink
bath.
in the ice bath. So that's where we are. So we're talking about
Okay.
those things, but all of those things, like I said, there's no plan etched in stone. It's just a lot of ideas, and
Mhm.
the club and the members and the community. The only way that this comes to fruition is we have to put skin in the game. So
Yes.
talk is talk, but we'll see what comes out of it.
All right. Well, as you get closer, I will invite you back with hopefully Roots, Gorhams, and government to give us another update as we get closer to, a finalization of the field, because I think it's important that everybody keeps abreast. People drive across there every day and probably just look over there and just keep driving. So, we just want to keep everybody up to date with what's happening at the Western Star Sports Club.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. We're going to take another commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Sharice Bean, the Bermuda Football Association's Women's Chair. We'll be right back. Thank you, sir.
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Putting down the weapons.
You seen this?
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
And welcome back, and welcome to Ms. Sharice Bean, the chairperson for women's football for the Bermuda Football Association. Sharice, we still have the knockout final this Friday night, but you successfully completed a league for senior women in the island after a number of years. Do you think, you and your committee, do you think you met the goals in which you set yourselves for this particular league when you guys came up with the idea?
Hi, Earl. Yeah, thank you for having me on the show. Yeah, I think that we did meet the goals that we had. We were aiming to have at least 6 teams, and that's what we ended up achieving. Having some competitive football, having players that we know played in the past come back out to play, having new players show up, having the players that were in between where we hadn't seen them for a while playing, high schoolers, people that are away in college playing and things like that. So yeah, we achieved what we wanted to achieve and who was playing, the amount of players that were on each roster and things like that.
Right. Well, you had a few hiccups in between, beginning as anticipated. But overall, what was some of the feedback you guys were getting from the players, from the officials, from the spectators? Because I mean, each Friday night you could tell women's football was on because there was a large crowd, watching.
Yeah, from the players, they were happy to be back in some form and playing 11-a-side. So like we've tried before of having 6-a-side matches and things like that, and so having an actual 11-a-side match was what the goal was, and they loved to have it and to play it, having something that was their own. Their nights wasn't mixed with other teams and things like that, or other, the boys had the under 20 men had a league, but we kept it solely together as the women's league. Although the final on Friday will be a showcase of both the women's and the under 23s. The players were ecstatic about that. The fans, I mean, you heard it every Friday night or Tuesday night if you came out. The atmosphere, was great. So the fans were excited. And, I kept hearing people saying, it's nice to see the women back out. Thank you for having this league. We sort of children on the sidelines, players a family atmosphere. And so even like you said, when you have women's players, you have children and they have to bring the children out some nights, So it's getting the referees to understand it's going to be a little bit different from your normal cast of players. And so there may be some little children a child may be sitting on the bench also waiting for his mom to come off the field, So that was it. But the referees, so thankful for them because again, this was past their season or past their normal season. And they supported every single match that we had. So
yeah. Now, how important was it that it was one location for the season and you could call that home and everybody is comfortable at the one location?
Yeah, we would have loved to. We was trying to at least get another grass field, possibly, or have a grass field also. Because the turf field can be a lot on some players, but it was. We loved the fact that it was at one location. It was easier to manage. Knowing that we had changing rooms, bathrooms there. The women were comfortable of having a change room, bathrooms, and things like that available at the location. So having one location made it easier. Especially when it came to scheduling and having the support of the BFA saying you can have these nights specifically just for either teams to train or teams to play, and then that was good.
Yeah. Now, do you see even more interest now? Because if you look at it, the women are getting just as much exposure internationally. We have under 15s, we have under 17s, we have under 19s, we have all these international commitments. So do you see, because we're getting more exposure and now we have a league running, do you see more numbers and people taking the game just a little more serious as I want to now progress to either the under 20 national team or the senior women's national team?
I think so. I believe that the players that came out and played, and when they saw the national coaches hanging around and watching the games, it sort of was like, okay, hey, sending a message to say I'm interested in playing again, or even the coaches now saying, hey, I've never seen that player before, let me see what her name is. I'll come watch her again and things like that. So yeah, I believe that players were actually stepping up more because even some of the national team players or national squad players were like, oh wow, didn't realize how many girls and women play football.
Now, prior to the season started, I had you and your committee on, and a lot of things that you guys would have thought about You had thought you had it all planned out and everything. What was the biggest surprise for your committee for this initial year?
I believe how competitive it was. I mean, we knew it was going to be competitive, but I think the biggest surprise of all of that was just like, whoa, they're competitive, and they came out. You bet from 1 week you saw, a team having, I guess, their man's uniform to 2 weeks later they had on their girls' uniform, a whole new, they were like, you know what, you need to treat us like who we are, the women we are, and we want uniforms that fit us the way they fit us. And so we saw different, changes in uniforms. Dandy Stars had a new uniform. I heard somebody, Danny Tom man said, hey, we're getting new uniforms, and so, yeah. So I think the competitiveness that we had, some of the passion that came out where, some people weren't used to seeing that. Even some of our young national players weren't used to the passion that was displayed in the field at times. And so, I think that was something that we knew that was there, but I didn't think it was going to be as much as it was.
Right. Have you had any interest from clubs that did not field a team this time around? Have any clubs expressed interest in maybe next season?
Not yet. I maybe after the league is over and we have the AGM with the clubs and we talk about the things that happen and things like that. Maybe we'll have some clubs step up. I know that we've had more girls or women come out and say, "Are you doing this again? When's the next game? What are you doing next for us?" And I said, okay, we were just getting through these last 3 months. We're going to sit down again, meeting that strategic goal of having a women's league, and it was planned, from a while ago to have this happen. So we want to definitely reach out and help those clubs who want to have women play, and we will help and guide them to a place that, like we did with the girls' league, of getting more players to play.
Right. Now, this league kind of fitted everybody's schedule, kind of thing, in a certain way. But it's out of the quote unquote football season now. We know football's played all year round, all over the world. So, can we see possibly a winter and a summer league in women's football that would have a break in between the two to allow them to do something different, or are you looking to just do it in the summer months?
So I think that we are definitely looking to do something during the winter time. How it's going to pan out, I'm not sure yet, but we're definitely looking at it. We're going to talk to the clubs. We're going to have a postmortem with the clubs themselves that participated, just to see, what their interest is. Are they, thinking about having something during that Christmas break and maybe the April break? So when the students are back home, because they are the ones who help out, in numbers. Not too many. It wasn't as many as we thought. I thought it would have been a lot more, but there were a lot more players that actually are in Bermuda who came out to play. So there were college students, yes, but not as many as I thought when I was thinking of the numbers. But it definitely hit all the spots that we were looking for.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, I want to ask you about having players involved in some of the conversations. I think that's important to make sure that they feel like they're included in something. We'll be right back.
All right.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Joker's putting down the weapons.
You seen this?
And welcome back. Well, Sharice, often we talk about, or we hear conversations about, organizations speaking with clubs and so forth. And some of the times, when you were a player, some of the times you would want some representation from a player's aspect of making sure that all avenues are covered. So can we see them included, in some of the talks of how we can move forward, in years to come with this women's game?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Actually, when we did reach out to the clubs to say that, we're going to have a postmortem, we said we would invite 2 representatives. It doesn't have to be just the coaches. It could be the coach and the captain, it could be the coach and the player. It's up to that club who they want to come out and represent them around the table at that time. So yeah, we're not adverse to, especially because the players, sometimes they're on the field, they see what's going on. Sometimes they have ideas that we haven't thought about. So no, we're always open to it. Emails can be sent. Or you can contact me. I'm always around, the football field somewhere. So yeah, no, not adverse to it at all.
Sure. Now, the fact that your committee is full of people who have been involved in this sport for so many years, how pleasant is it that around the table everybody is thinking the sport to help improve it?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, when you have the likes of Shakita Parson, Nikita Robinson, you have Alicia Zul, that's history there, right? You have all the people that we have around our table. It just brings everything together because, and then but we also have Natasha, who comes with like her child's. She's thinking of the players, and she's specifically saying, what, the players are thinking like this because she didn't play football, but she's
Right.
definitely been that mother around it and manager around it. So she comes with a different view sometimes that we're not even thinking about.
Right.
And then we have Leslie, who comes with all the energy and atmosphere and willingness to help out. Doesn't like
Right.
cameras, but she definitely comes and gives her input. So
Right.
it's great what we have in our committee. Vinzi brings a whole nother level because she's going to not just bring the outdoor game, but futsal and other aspects like that, and different types of competition. Actually, Vinzi was one who actually led this project, and so I was grateful for her to go out and get the clubs to join in, go out and get players who weren't attached to clubs and assist them to get attached to clubs. So Vinzi was integral in doing that, and I was thankful for that.
Right. Now, clearly, you would have had this vision, or you and your group your team would have had this vision of producing this, and I know how you're the champion that call amongst the executives around the table. So how pleasing is it for the president, vice president, second vice president, these people to see the women's game up and running, because it's another feather in their cap?
It sure is. Tonight we had an executive meeting, so we get to strategic planning side. Say, oh, I can tick off that part of my box. So it's excellent, to say that, because some committees are struggling with different things because of COVID. It held things back, but this was something we kept, on the forefront, and it was excellent to see it. They came out some nights and looking from the porch, saying, "This is more people than at a regular football game." So, yeah.
It's like you said, it helps when you got 2 and 3 children. They have to bring them along.
Yeah, and all the aunties and the grannies and all those people. I tell people all the time, you want people to if you want new members at your club, you got a girls football team because they bring a whole lot of people with them. Yeah.
So looking at it, obviously you guys haven't had a postmortem or anything, but what are some of the things you guys want to probably add or take away, prior to having your meeting, just that you discussed throughout the season? What are some of the things you look to add next season?
I definitely want to try to get another surface, so not just playing on the Astro turf, looking for another place to play that is a grass field, looking at having, I guess, the referees to understand that, they are playing football. I expect the same discipline that you would give to any, one referee one time gave, oh, I couldn't give her a card. She's a girl. No. You should have given her the card. There is discipline that needs to be held, and so there's the things like that we definitely will improve on. I think at the end of the season, the referees, they gave out a red card or two, so they definitely were like, oh, we're not holding back now. So, yeah. I mean, but definitely having another place to play, because we're going to have it. I think the league's going to grow. And so we don't have enough space at BFA Field to try to jam in games, unless we're going to get another night. But with the amount of national teams that are training also, it's a little hard for that. So it'd be nice to find another facility to play at, and it to be a grass field, just to help with some of the needs. Some of the veteran players and their knees don't really work well in turf. Yeah.
They need the whole week off to recover. Well, the funny part is some of these grass fields are just as hard as
yeah. So maybe we're going to try to look at some sponsorship. Maybe be able to go to National Sports Center and use the North Field or something like that. Probably help out a little bit more. So looking to try to get some sponsorship in that in that aspect, and that would help out a little. So yeah, that's some of the things we're looking at.
Okay, all right. Well, I want to, I don't know if I'll be the first, but I want to congratulate you on the government has released their notices, and I see that you have been named the acting director of youth and sport beginning August 13th to January 13th. So big task at hand, overseeing the department. What does this do initially? What does this do for your position at the Bermuda Football Association? Because you know the talk. You know the talk.
It's fun. Yeah. So it's out officially now. Thank you for letting me know, because I did not see that notice come out. But thank you for that. At this time, I guess have to have a talk with my permanent secretary and with the president of the Bermuda Football Association. But yeah, at this point, I'm still the chairwoman of women's football.
Right.
And I will be acting director in August, like you said. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I do want to thank you and your committee. I know putting this on wasn't an easy task. It was a lot of back and forth, and you've indicated some of the people that have really put in a lot of work in making sure that the women's game did get going. And I want to thank the players as well, because even at the start of it, it was some high scores, but eventually those teams became a little bit more competitive with more players getting involved and so forth. So they have to be commended for coming out each and every Friday or each and every Tuesday to entertain. And
the growth was shown. I mean, we could see the growth from the beginning to the end of the season with every team. It was amazing. And like you said, the teams that were, taking some losses that were larger than others, they still came on and played. At one point they sent a message, I was scared to open it up. So they were going to drop out. But no, they was like, oh no, we're adding another player. And they seem to be getting more and more players. And it was exciting to see that, they're still there for the love of the game and not just for winning. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, like Buddy said, congratulations to Somerset on a great season, undefeated. They only dropped points to PHC. I believe
Right.
was the only time that they did draw points, and
Yep.
that's the final for Friday. So that should be an exciting one, right?
Sure,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank you again for joining me this evening just to bring some light to the women's game. I think it's important that the ladies get their due as well.
Yes.
And them having a league that they can call their own, I think is a step in the right direction. And again, congratulations to you and your committee, to the women. Thank you to the officials who came out and gave their time as well, and to the fans. Look out for these women playing in the winter, hopefully, and then again in the summer. So, yeah, good luck.
Yeah. Coming soon to a club near you, right? Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get into those clubs more. So yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Thank you.
All right. Well,
All right.
Dean, have a good night. Folks, we'll be back. Actually, we will not be back next week as it's the Cup Match Eve. We'll be back the following Wednesday with another edition of the Islands Dad Sports Show. Happy Cup Match. Go St. George's. We'll be all right.
Yes, go St. George's.
Have a good night.
All righty.